Hello, and welcome to the Just Interesting podcast, episode 87. And with me, Robin, today are Martin and Alex. It's a full house. It's a trio.
Woo!
Woohoo, yes.
Well, welcome. After that
lovely.
enthusiastic opening. That's great. That's great.
It's always lovely getting to chat with you both. I'm very excited to be here today.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here.
I'm back from my, where was I? Where was I streaking this time?
I think
Dartmoor, I think, was the last report.
Dartmoor, that was it.
Yeah.
Dartmoor,
Yeah.
Thanks, the Moors murderer.
How was it, Martin? Did you get away?
Liberating.
Any frostbite? Well, I guess you didn't with this.
No,
weather,
it was. I timed it absolutely perfectly. If anything, it was too warm, a little bit sunburned, a little bit red. But you know, it's what you pay for when you're a streaker. You know, you've got to take the rough with the smooth, quite literally.
And you do like it rough, yeah.
And it is good when it's rough.
You do. Well, today we're talking about something that's actually very exciting. And at least I should hope everybody is excited about it, because everybody should be excited about it. It's fusion power. It's the future, guys. It is here. It has arrived. Fusion, or rather, that is the question we'll be tackling today. Has it arrived?
I mean, it's always arriving, isn't it? It's never quite here. It's always 5 years away. But I mean,
I'll see you.
but there is news in the news. Brand new developments that imply maybe it isn't 5 years away, Alex. Maybe it's just a couple of years away.
the window has gone narrower. Okay.
It has gone narrower. And actually, we now have, there are also other developments in recent months, means we have some hard dates, some targets, some actual calendrical targets for fusion power being put into action, at least in some countries. And we'll discuss that when we come to the main topic later on this episode. But before we do that, we'll be discussing things that were then this week. We'll be addressing our favorite comments from the week made on past podcast episodes. And we'll be ending everything with a quiz. It'll be Martin and Alex going head to head. Currently, the score tracker is 6 to Alex and 5 to Martin. So one of them will either get ahead or draw even, in which case this season's quiz will never end because there'll never be a winner. But we'll get there.
Are we ending the season on episode 90? That makes sense, doesn't it?
That will make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think we ended season 2 on episode 40. It feels like it's been a long time since season 3 began. I can't remember. It wasn't that long ago.
Season, there is literally no discernible difference between the seasons. It's
just a constant production line. It was just, we're hard at work. We never stop. You know, it's why, as a boring aside, that was one of my discoveries when the DVD age came about, and those TV shows that you watch as a child on TV, and just every week there's a new episode, and then you go to get the DVDs box set, and there's like season 2, season 6, and you're just like, but they never stopped making them. There was never a break. It's not like there was a year between these seasons. It just continued. They just arbitrarily decided to stop it here. And then you get the inverse where, like, Martin, you're a fan of the Poirot series, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, man. I have got the box set.
Yeah, with David Suchet. And they were doing 10-episode seasons, weren't they, for the first 6 seasons? And
they were shorter episodes, yeah.
They went from an hour-long episodes to feature-length episodes.
If an hour, some of them were 45 minutes.
Yeah, and then they just kind of they just arbitrarily decided this is a season and it's one episode. So season 10 is one episode. Yeah. And season 9 is 3 episodes.
Like the Murder on the Orient Express is like a 10 season.
Yeah, which is daft, isn't it?
Doesn't that really annoy you, though? I hate that when seasons are really irregular. Like Luther started with 60 episodes in the first season, then it was 4. I think.
You know, it's not that bad.
One season where it's just 2 episodes. It's not a season.
The issue is when you have expectations and you're like, oh, another season. You sit down and you're like, watch the first 2 episodes, usually back to back. Let's be honest, with a lot of British drama, they do it on like a Saturday and Sunday or whatever, and then you're like, right, cool. Next week's, and then it's like, it's not on next week. What the hell? What do you mean it's not on next week? Then just started. That does happen a lot, actually. You're right.
Yeah, British TV is the worst because they have 6 episodes, sitcom seasons. You know, like 6 half-hour episodes. It's like, it's just so much work to put it together. And you look across the pond at America, like they have 22-hour-long episodes per season.
That is also mental, though.
Like, that is mental. I think that is too much. But you do think if they can do it, surely we can, extend it to 12, maybe.
Yeah, I'm always surprised that US episodes in comedies are like more than 20 minutes because they have so many ads. Like, I remember going over to the US and turning on the TV, and it was literally like 2 minutes of an episode and then just ads.
I don't know
a list.
There's a bit extreme.
Like
a list of side effects from a medicine ad was longer than the section of the thing you're watching is.
Yeah.
Madness.
And you realize that's why the TV schedule has this one episode of Friends in for an hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
It mostly has. Yeah. Anyway.
I think that this is what happens when we're not live streaming to a live audience. When we do this, we start talking about TV.
Anything and everything.
For like 10 minutes.
Just immediately derailed the whole thing. But yes, as Alex pointed out, normally we're doing this live, but this episode is different because we're not doing it live. That actually, despite that fascinating conversation full of tidbits and facts about TV, what have we learned this week? Martin.
Well, American TV channels, no. No, don't be silly. So I was watching a channel about this guy. He's traveled to every country in the world. He's called Drew Binsky. I imagine some people have heard of him. Well, that's the name of his channel. I think he's called Drew.
Well, lucky.
And yeah, I know, right? And I watched one episode and he was talking about Turkmenistan, which seems like an interesting country, quite repressive in some ways. But the supreme leader of Turkmenistan has brought in a whole load of quite unusual rules based on just what he likes and doesn't like.
Okay.
So, for the first thing is they're like a pretty oil-rich country. So the capital of Turkmenistan, called Ashgabat, is made up of a whole load of these huge ornate white buildings. They're made of white marble, which of course is insanely expensive. Yeah. But 80% of these huge, vast buildings of this city are made from this white marble. So that's one thing. It's worth hundreds of billions of dollars to build this city because they're really oil rich. But to fit in with the aesthetic of this particular place being white, the supreme leader has banned coloured cars. You can only have white cars in the city. So that's one first thing that's been banned.
That's tough.
Another thing is he doesn't particularly like dogs, or he thinks they're a bit dirty. So he banned anyone from having pet dogs in the country.
Do you know what? Like, it sounds bad. I know he's doesn't sound like a nice guy anyway, but that really makes me judge him.
No dogs, yeah.
Being a
if you don't like dogs, you're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's one thing, but not liking dogs, I mean, come on, that's
you're definitely
awful.
not
Even Hitler liked
dictator
dogs.
If you're
you bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the other one, more recently, is that they banned people using the word coronavirus, using the pandemic.
Classic.
I mean, that makes sense, really.
Maybe they just pretended it didn't exist.
What's a coronavirus?
What are you talking about? What's a mask? Yeah. So anyway, yeah, interesting country. But yeah, bizarre. They banned such weird things. And also the capital city is basically deserted. All these huge white marble buildings are all for like propaganda and PR. Like, it reminds me a little bit of Pyongyang and
yes, it looks nice, but there's nobody.
But there's nothing there, right? Yeah. Anyway, that was my little bit from this week.
Fascinating.
So thank you to Drew Binsky for his interesting channel. I mean, quite an intriguing perspective from someone that's visited every country in the world.
Yeah, that's remarkable. Is it just out of interest, Martin? Is it a technical? He's visited every country. He stopped over in an airport whilst flying somewhere else, or has he done a proper 2-week visit to every country?
I think he's done a pretty extensive visit, like actually properly stayed there as opposed to ticking it just off the list. I don't know for sure, but it seems like that because he's been doing it for the last decade, I think, traveling around.
Wow.
I mean, I'll have to go over and watch the video, but I mean, was it difficult for him to get into Turkmenistan? Like, is that a difficult country?
I think Turkmenistan, if I remember correctly, he had to be with a tour guide.
Right.
As like a Western tourist, he had to be there with a tour guide.
Kind of North Korea, I guess.
North Korea as well, yeah. So it seemed a bit like that, like everything was kind of staged. Because often you get in these oppressive regimes, isn't it? Everything's staged. You can't go off the beaten track,
Or at least that's what Western propaganda says about these actually lovely places. And I think they get a bad rep, really. And I'm glad that you've got YouTubers going out there to reveal the beauty of these, not dictatorships, let's say consolidated government.
Yes, for the greater good.
And this podcast is sponsored by the Turkmenistan Tourist Board.
We should definitely play some kind of traditional local music over the top of that.
Yeah, we should. As an aside, actually, I actually like to look into dictatorships, actually, because there must be way more out there than you think about. you assume the world is democracy, but I bet if I were a betting man, I bet it's over half of the world's nations are probably dictatorships to varying degrees. So
yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. To what degree?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's naturally, as long as if there aren't stringent checks and balances in place, it so easily can fall into that, can't it? So easily.
Yeah, well, in America and the UK,
it's
teetering on the brink. Yeah,
we have an illusion of a stable democracy. It's crazy.
Well, Alex, what have you done this week? Hopefully, it's a bit more cheerful than dictatorships.
I don't know about cheerful, a bit more mystery focused though. About one of quite a few people, maybe even both of yours, favorite mysteries. Well, it's definitely up there. It's one of my favorite mysteries.
Amelia Earhart.
No, but very close actually.
What about the green children of?
Oh yes, them. Yes,
is it Woolpit?
Woolpit.
Woolpit. Yep.
No, it's not that.
Is it the Dyatlov Pass?
It's not Dyatlov Pass. You're circling it.
Is it?
You were closer
is it
with
the Bermuda Triangle?
No, you were closer with Amelia Earhart.
Okay.
It's an aviation mystery.
Bermuda Triangle.
No.
No.
Come on.
Which aviation? MH370. MH370.
It's not that. No. I'm just going to tell you because we could be here all day.
Yeah,
it's about DB Cooper.
Classic DB Cooper.
Everyone's favorite hijacker.
Actually,
probably yes.
Yeah, actually, yes.
You give a bit of background on DB for the kids at home who may not have heard of him.
I mean, I'm sure most of our listeners have probably heard of the mystery of DB Cooper, but basically in 1971, a man wearing a suit and tie walked into an airport in, I can't remember where it was actually.
I got Boston in my head, but is that right? DB.
Northwest
Washington
Orient
State.
Airlines.
Washington.
Flight 305.
Northern states, I think. Yeah.
Between Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington.
Oh, okay. No,
I was okay. Close.
Seattle, that's not even that far, is it? Portland to Seattle.
It's an internal. It's a domestic flight. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like an hour or two. Yeah.
And he got on the plane, and about a few hours into the flight, he called over an air hostess and gave her a note, and she thought he was giving her his number. So she went to walk away, and he said, "Excuse me, miss, you're going to want to see that note. You're going to want to read that note." And the note said something along the lines of, "I've got a bomb in my briefcase." And he opened his briefcase, and he had a bunch of wires and, electrical bits in there. And he was very suave about it all. Didn't kick up too much of a fuss, but he basically wanted $200,000 and 2 parachutes. Or I think he asked for 4 parachutes, actually.
In case a couple broke.
And the flight was diverted and landed somewhere so he could get his $200,000 and the parachutes, and he let everyone off the plane except for the cabin crew and the pilots, obviously. And then he flew the plane. I can't remember whereabouts he was flying. Had the cabin pressure in the airplane. What is it? No cabin pressure. No, you know what I mean. Anyway, and then he jumped off the plane.
Not really, mate.
Depressurized? Is that
Depressurized. Depressurized.
Yeah. Right, okay,
yes.
I see.
Yes. Okay. That's why you're a podcaster, Robin. Thank you. And then he jumped off the plane. And no one knows what happened to him. It was during a storm, and he was never found. But they did recover some of the notes a few years later, lying in a kind of lake nearby.
Yes.
So there's some people think maybe he got away, maybe he survived the fall, and maybe he could be out there still to this day, living off this money.
Yeah.
But he was never recovered. And my fact of the week is that this is the only unsolved case of air piracy in commercial aviation history.
Huh.
The only unsolved one. And I don't know. I just thought that's
actually interesting. Yeah.
Unusual. I thought there could be more.
Yeah.
Say that again. It's the only unsolved mystery
of unsolved air piracy case in commercial aviation history.
Air piracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because on DB Cooper.
Yeah. Because there's been lots of crimes in the air that haven't been solved.
Lots.
Yeah. Like someone who stole some sweets on a flight to Paris a few years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure that counts as piracy.
It's piracy. It's borderline. They stole the sweets, didn't they?
Yeah. I think that's really interesting because like they say it's the safest way to travel. So I guess, yeah, there's enough monitoring of the planes, and the plane is such a self-contained thing. It's kind of usually fairly obvious if who the guilty party is.
Mm.
And then they've got to get off the plane at some point. So then it must be fairly easy to contain them getting off the plane, because they've either got to land or they've got to jump out of it. And if they jump out of it, you can search the area where they jumped out of it and do all kinds of clever calculations with the wind speed and all that stuff to find out where they might have landed.
This may be an indication as to why this is. So, following this in 1971, this unsuccessful attempt DB Cooper made, 15 hijackings similar to DB Cooper's occurred in 1972, and they were all unsuccessful. And then in 1973, there was the advent of universal luggage searches. So obviously he hid this bomb. It probably wasn't a real bomb in his luggage. And yeah, since this happened in 1973, general incidents of hijackings dropped dramatically. And there were no more notable Cuba imitators until July 1980, when a man called Glenn K. Tripp seized a flight at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. He demanded $600,000, 2 parachutes, and the assassination of his boss.
Why are they asking for multiple parachutes? I don't get this.
I think it's
DB
because...
Cooper with 4 parachutes is mad, isn't it? I mean, did he want one for his suit?
No, I think it's because in case they put like a fake, like a dud parachute in there, he can...
That's mad.
I think it's like a... Yeah, I don't know.
I can get that. Yeah. I get that.
Anyway, this particular instance ended when a flight attendant secretly drugged his alcoholic beverage with Valium.
Nice.
After a 10-hour standoff, during which he reduced his demands to 3 cheeseburgers and a ground vehicle in which to escape, he was apprehended. So there's a life pro tip for any would-be air hijackers out there. If you're going to hijack a plane, don't, load up on alcohol during the flight.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, some poor negotiating skills. If we got down to 3 cheeseburgers.
Well, you didn't even get that. You didn't even get that.
No, that's true. Yeah, you didn't even get that.
No.
But, you got to try at least.
Do you think that DB Cooper was cutting it a bit fine, just going from Portland to Seattle? It's just like, he doesn't give you much wiggle room in case things go wrong to get out the plane.
I don't know. He planned it. He must have planned it, clearly.
He must live in that area.
That was the initial flight path. And then obviously he, during the flight, did his whole spiel and they landed it. And then he flew off somewhere. He ordered them to fly off in a different direction.
Right, yeah.
So
yeah, because once you've got the plane, you can go anywhere you like.
Close to home, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe. If you were smart, you'd do it away from home.
You would, wouldn't you? Yeah. You would.
Interestingly, it's near they border Canada, don't they, those states? I wonder if he was actually Canadian.
Well, that is a popular theory, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe.
And DB Cooper wasn't he part of like a Canadian pulp comic series or something?
Right. Okay. Well, this podcast is now actually becoming...
It's just a DB Cooper.
A DB Cooper podcast.
Yeah, I would have needed to have done a bit more reading on it first, I think, for it to be that. It's a really fascinating mystery, though. Definitely one of my favorites. However, I will say, I just don't think he got away. I don't want to be a negative Nelly, but I think that... I think he them finding some bills, some of the actual serial number bills in the area that he was suspected to have jumped out the plane a couple of years afterwards really makes me think that he didn't survive the fall. He also chose a parachute that you can't steer, and it was during a massive storm. So I'm thinking that old DB may not have made it. Yeah,
well, tell us what you think in the comments below. And if you wanted to do a full episode about DB Cooper, I'm sure we'll be open to it. Just give us a shout. Either in the comments on YouTube, if you're watching the video version of this podcast, or if you're listening to us on a podcast platform of your choice, go over to us on Twitter at JInterestingYT, or individually, I'm at AllTimeRobin.
I'm at Martin Interesting.
And I'm at Just Alexing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Lovely done. Well done. Ooh.
Robin, what have you learned this week?
What have I learned this week? A much shorter story, but interesting, I hope. It's about mites, microscopic mites. Something in the news, actually. Scientists have carried out the first ever genome sequencing of Demodex follicularum. And these are 0.3 millimeter long mites that live in the pores of our skin.
Oh, don't tell me about this.
On
That's
average,
horrible.
there's about 40 of them in each pore.
What?
And
I guess they're tiny, aren't they?
in each pore, yeah.
Oh.
And they feed on the sebum, the sweat, the grease, sebum, the oil that we secrete, that glossy, oily stuff that happens and causes spots as well. Roughly 90% of people carry them. So it's possible that 2 of you are in the 10% of people who don't have them. So, rest easy in that case. And they're most abundant in the wings of the nose, the forehead, the ear canal, and on our nipples. And they only ever come out of the pores of our skin at night to have sex.
Oh.
So when we go to sleep,
no.
they come out and have sex in our faces.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
It's just one big sex party, but Alex is invited.
Exactly.
Very much invited, but you're just asleep, which I guess is probably some kind of a criminal offence.
They are associated with healthy skin, by the way. No one knows exactly what it is, but there may be a connection between the fact that they eat and feed on the sebum, the grease that comes out of our pores, and people having good skin. So perhaps people who have them actually, they help keep your pores clean, or cleaner than they might otherwise be. You still get other stuff in your pores. But we'd like to know the results of the genome sequencing. The startling results.
I feel like we should know,
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, to their surprise, scientists found that these mites survive with the lowest repertoire of proteins ever seen in any insect, arachnid, or crustacean in the world so far. And what this means is that they're so, at this point in human history, they're so symbiotic with humans. They've evolved to live in us so well that they're losing genes over time. And they may continue to lose genes until they become extinct.
Wow. They screwed that one up, didn't they?
Part of the problem may be
creature humans have made extinct.
well, part of the problem may be that even if you were to, get intimate with somebody and rub your face all over theirs, or, I don't know, you might make contact with their nipples somehow. They don't.
This is Robin as an AI learning how humans reproduce.
How do humans work?
By when you say their nipples, do you mean the mite's nipples or?
No, another person's nipples.
Oh, I see.
These mites don't have nipples that I'm aware of. They don't transfer between humans.
They're very much yours.
They stay on you, which means that when they get out every night to mate and reproduce, the level of inbreeding is just getting worse and worse and worse. So they may actually be doing a royal family on us, on their own species, and they're going to breed themselves out just through lack of genetic variety.
Madness.
Yeah.
They might well do.
That's what I learned this week. I learned about the freaky mites that live in our skin and may be dying out. But apparently they do no harm.
Okay, well, that's positive, I guess.
Don't worry about that.
Positive, just don't look at them under a microscope. It's always the way, isn't it? It's like, this thing lives in your skin, and then you look at it and it's like, that is disgusting, but it's microscopic. So
you're right.
Is there they don't do any harm, but can I get rid of them? Is there a way to get rid of them? Like, I don't
bleach your face.
Yeah, I think Martin's right. Bleach your face. This is not a genuine recommendation. Health warning, do not bleach your face.
Don't bleach your face. Unless you want to get rid of the mites, then bleach your face.
Disclaimer, the views represented in this podcast belong to the individuals involved and do not represent the views of Just Interesting Productions or its partners and affiliates.
So you're saying don't not bleach your face?
Oh my gosh. Let's move on. Any comments? Any comments of the week that we'd like to talk about?
Oh, wonderful.
I've got a comment.
I've got one.
Oh no.
Whoa.
After you, Robin. Please.
Oh my gosh. No, you first, Alex. You first.
Okay. Thank you. So I've got a comment from on our last podcast, from Recu97, who says, so this was about our discussion that we had, Robin, on Lambda, Google's artificial intelligence program, and whether it's become sentient. And he says, they say, before we fully understand consciousness and sentience, I would say we cannot make AI that is sentient. I just think this is an awesome piece of software. But yeah, what do you think? It's an interesting point, I thought. Because we don't really know what consciousness is, or we don't have a very good definition of it. So can we ever truly know if we've made a true artificial intelligence? I think the scary thing is not that we wouldn't be able to make one, but we don't know how to recognize it's fully sentient if we ever did make one.
Yeah, I'd say that's what struck me the most about this whole news about Google's Lambda possibly becoming sentient, is the fact that the whole scientific community seems to have suddenly started intensely debating what sentience actually means. And it got me thinking, wait a second, you hadn't already decided what this was? Like, this is how Skynet happens, people. The whole point of these sci-fi stories is to warn us that we need to be prepared. How are we so dumb?
Dian from last week says, I'm writing a short story about an android becoming sentient, and this episode has given me a ton of great ideas and things to think about. So thanks a lot. So that is credit to you guys.
Well, you're very welcome. It was a really interesting discussion, actually. No, I really enjoyed that.
It was a fascinating topic. And yeah, Dian, or Diane, however you say your name, please do. What are you going to do with that short story? Will you publish it somewhere on a blog or in the book of other short stories? Please let us know what you're going to do with it. It sounds great. Really interesting. I know some people like to write things and keep it to themselves, don't they? Just as a kind of exercise and creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Dian also actually mentions problems with the subscribe notification buttons. Says, I'd love to catch you guys live. I subscribed, turn on notifications, but it always comes up late, a few hours after the show streamed. And this is one of several comments we keep getting lately about people struggling to get notifications for our channel. And particularly if they've double-clicked the bell notification icon to get the alerts. So sadly, sorry that's happening. We'll look into it. But if YouTube's being pernickety, there's not much we can do.
Well, one thing that has worked, I think we're going to go into this.
I was going to say Sean Verso.
Yes.
Yeah, has said it's true about notifications bell hardly working on your channel. But actually, someone else I saw said that if they subscribed and subscribed again, that was at PMark.
Unsubscribed and subscribe again.
Yeah. Unsubscribe, subscribe again, and that fixed the bell issue for them. So thank you, PMark, and everybody who's having those problems, please do feel free to unsubscribe and subscribe. Please do remember to subscribe again. That would really make me sad if you stayed unsubscribed. But
if you haven't subscribed and you're listening to this, do. And then turn the bell notification on.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this on your podcast platform of choice, thank you very much. And if you feel like looking at us, seeing us spew all this rubbish at you, then go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon to possibly get an alert for when we go live.
Yeah, possibly. And watch us live and interact with us in person.
Yeah. When you go live, you can comment in the live chat and we'll respond to you live. Amazing. Beautiful. Anyway,
what a time to be alive, hey fellas.
Hey, technology is great until it stops working because we've destroyed the world. But on that note, there is hope for the future, fellas. There is hope for the future in these dark times of climate change in particular, threatening to wipe out humanity as we know it. There is hope because we may be on the brink of a generation of fusion technology, giving us all the energy we need for the planet to survive in a low carbon, climate friendly way.
So we'll be able to tell fossil fuels to F off.
Exactly.
I'll believe it when I see it, Robin.
Well, there is some exciting developments which may convince you, Alex, that you don't have to see it before you believe it. But before we get into that, I'll just give some context. So nuclear energy, you've probably all heard of it. Currently, it operates on the principle of fission, which is splitting the atom, much like the nuclear bomb. When the atom is split there, it generates a lot of energy. But nuclear reactors are specially built to, I was going to say safely, but to, in a controlled way, split the atom and collect the energy given off by that reaction to heat water and generate electricity with dynamos and turbines. Nuclear energy currently provides about 10% of the world's electricity from only 440 power reactors. So it's pretty potent stuff. It's the second largest source of low carbon power, about a third of the total in 2019. So that's why a lot of people are keen to continue with nuclear energy and another form of nuclear energy because it generates so much power and it is low carbon. But only about 50 countries currently utilize nuclear energy. Like I said, they're based on fission. The problem with fission is that in addition to the heat that it gives off, which is very intense, it has byproducts. They may not be carbon dioxide, which is obviously polluting the atmosphere, but it does include radioactive waste, which can stay radioactive for a very long time. So, for example, the common byproduct of the uranium that is used for the nuclear reaction in a nuclear reactor is plutonium-239, which has a half-life of 24,000 years. So it will stay radioactive for the hundreds of thousands of years.
It's a bit, it seems a bit irresponsible. Do you remember we had I think we brought it up on, it may not have even been on this podcast. It may have been on the podcast that shall not be named. But there was an interesting story or like a book that someone had recommended about someone designing a space to warn off, or like signs. What would you put on a sign to warn off people like generations down the line? Like if something bad had happened and civilization like reset, what would you put on like a sign, like as a warning to say, no, don't go here because there's radiation stuff here?
Yes, that's a really good point, because in 24,000 years' time, people will be speaking different languages.
Yeah. You draw a picture of someone dead. That's it.
But then you get into like, it's red. You know, the pyramids are booby trapped, but it doesn't stop explorers from going in there. But people cannot go in here.
But then you just say, well, we did tell you should check the sign outside with a dead person on it, you idiots.
But you get that classic problem of archaeologists uncovering some kind of symbols and saying, these have mystical, ceremonial purpose. Like, let's keep digging. and then they unleash all the radioactive waste on themselves. Which actually, obviously it can be deadly. People know this, but I was shocked to learn just how deadly it can be. So the fatal dose for humans is 500 REM. And the typical radioactive waste fuel generated by a reactor gives off 10,000 REM per hour. So just a few seconds of exposure to the radioactive waste will kill you. 500 is fatal, 10,000 an hour from radioactive waste. That just terrified me, which is why they normally try to dispose of it in these deep underground pits, don't they? They bury it normally. I think it's the way they dispose of things. But they also do.
It doesn't that doesn't feel good, does it? That feels wrong. Like burying something that will be this poisonous, hazardous waste for thousands of years. Did you guys watch, just on the nuclear disaster kind of leaking out side of things, did you guys watch the 3 Mile Island documentary on Netflix?
No,
I didn't know.
It's worth a watch.
I saw the documentary with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds.
It wasn't that one.
Wasn't that one?
It wasn't that one, I'm afraid.
So
no.
What caused the accident? I thought it was Wolverine and Deadpool having a fight.
It was similar to that. More human error as opposed to kind of what's Wolverine? What are they? Mutants, that's it. Yeah. Human error. But late 1970s, big error, and then cover up afterwards as well. And then even once they had made the mistakes and they were having to like safeguard the reactor, they were still cutting corners for profit.
Wow.
Even after like a huge leak and loads of people who had to be evacuated.
That was awful.
It was still going on. It was mental.
There was a film in the late 70s called The China Syndrome, I think, which was made. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Well, maybe you can correct me, but I thought, if I remember correctly, the China Syndrome film was made before the 3 Mile Island incident.
Yeah, like a month before.
Yeah, but it was made about exactly the same problem. Yeah. So people knew. And they even knew so much they made a film about it, and then it actually happened.
Well, so when the incident happened, all the news articles and the news broadcasters and journalists were all going, "So is this a China Syndrome incident?" Like that was the thing they used to compare it to, like constantly.
That's terrifying.
Wow.
Yeah, because basically it was a shadow of it. It was,
Yeah.
replicated it completely.
That's
really
terrifying.
Weird. But worth a watch on Netflix, that documentary, if you get a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, recommendation. Thank you.
So probably three hours invested, but it's very interesting. Sorry, back to the show.
Back to something just interesting, which is brand spanking new news. As of today, at the time of recording, a company called Zap Energy, which is a startup company working on fusion energy, said that it has taken an important step towards testing its system that will eventually produce more electricity than it consumes.
Ooh, okay.
Using nuclear fusion, which of course nuclear fusion.
Yeah, that's always been the problem with fusion up till now. It technically does work, but the problem is that they're exerting way more energy trying to get it to work than actually they're harvesting at the end of the process.
That's very good, isn't it?
What they're trying to do is use gravity essentially to fuse hydrogen into helium. And like you say, the amount of resources required to contain that reaction and to trigger that reaction is just massive. It's like that old saying, it's easier to destroy something than to create it. And it's literally the case in this case. It's similar to Doc Ock, creating a miniature sun. That's pretty much what they're trying to do when it comes to fusion. But they can
the sun
in the palm of my hand. But I'm surprised actually how small fusion reactors can, in theory, be. It's not like a huge power plant that you get with nuclear reactors at the moment, but fusion reactors can be the size of a room and give off so much energy that they can provide. I think. I have the statistic here actually. If I can find it. They think one reactor core from their fusion design will produce 50 megawatts of electricity, which is enough to power at least 8,000 homes.
Wow,
yeah,
that's mad.
And you could have multiple cores in the same plant, so you could easily supply an entire city from one reactor, which is really, really great. So at the moment, the problem is stability. So there have been many experiments, and they've been able to have a fusion reaction occur for a split second or a few milliseconds. But what they need to do is to be able to sustain it. And I think that's the design challenge that they're trying to overcome. For example, I think the most recent record was in December 2021, which is the Joint European Torus, which is currently the most powerful fusion facility in the world, in Oxford, in the UK. And it successfully had a fusion reaction going for 5 seconds, which produced 59 megajoules of energy. And that beat the previous record, which the same reactor also set in 1997, which was within a second and produced 22 megajoules of energy.
Wow. So, I mean, that's a long gap between those two records, isn't it?
It is.
1997 I mean, I guess it's not really in the grand scheme of things, but when we're talking about we want fusion now, that seems like a long gap.
Yeah, is there a little bit of kind of PR in this? Like Zap, of course, they want to become like a household name. They're on to the next thing. What did they say? Like within the next year, or
they said, within the next year they might be able to.
It's based on a lot of assumptions, though. Like in this particular article, it says that where is it? Quite near the bottom, it says their technical challenge now is to confirm what they have simulated by a computer. So that's a big step from like the simulation to the real thing. And then on the back of that, they say ensuring that the Z pinch fusion section of the plasma remains stable. I don't really know what that means. And then they're able to design an electrode that can survive in the intense fusion environment of the reactor. That sounds like quite a big thing to engineer.
It does,
but it can survive the intense fusion environment of the reactor. That's something they haven't done yet.
No,
but they're banking on that being able to be created within the next year.
But it sounds like, I don't know, I see that as really good progress though, because we've moved on from saying, oh, you can't trigger a fusion reaction and you can't control a fusion reaction, to we can. What we don't have is the materials that are tough enough to withstand the strength of a fusion reaction. So now they're focusing on the hardware rather than the theory of it. It's all, the physics is sound, the fusion reaction is creatable, it's not sustainable because the equipment doesn't last long enough because it's so powerful it's busting everything. But that's kind of how new progress and discoveries are made, right? It's kind of like, nuclear war, right, is arguably the biggest threat again at the moment, besides climate change, because of what's going on in Ukraine with Putin. And nuclear bombs, when they invented them, they had to literally fly them on a plane, a massive plane that was big enough to carry the damn bomb. And now they can put the warheads in tiny little things that get stuck onto massive missiles that fly intercontinentally across the earth. And, once you've got the principles sound, which is we can split the atom and blow shit up, we can now develop the technology to deliver it remotely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they will get there. I imagine that they will get there, but it's just the time frame they're talking about here.
I think you're right. It sounds a bit...
it's ambitious, let's just say.
Yeah. In fact, there's a quotation from a skeptic, a scientist who is skeptical. I think his name's Daniel Jaspy, who's a retired plasma physicist at Princeton University, who says that fusion reaction claims are widely believed solely due to the effective propaganda of promoters and laboratory spokespersons.
Right.
He basically says, it's all
You're
talk.
Talking shite.
Yeah, it's all talk. But I don't know, I think it's also resources. So, for example, in 2020, funding for the private fusion sector was $2 billion globally. By the end of 2021, funding was up to $4 billion. So with that kind of funding increase,
it seems like there's a pretty clear indication, maybe behind the scenes, that things are actually happening. And I think you are right, Robin, that the language that is being used, even if what they're saying is kind of propaganda, pro-fusion rhetoric to try and encourage this funding, the language that they've used has definitely changed from previous years. Like now it's not saying, if we can make it, last for a bit longer. Now what they're saying, we can do it, we just need stronger materials, like you say.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting, because do you think that when this actually does come to fruition, it will be a bit like opening Pandora's box and fusion power will just suddenly be everywhere? Or do you think that even
100%.
when it's invented, do you think that when it comes to fruition, it will take over the global energy market and just wipe out all the others? Everything else will become irrelevant, like fossil fuels, renewables, doesn't matter, fusion power.
Well, fossil fuels, I think, will unfortunately still have a place because we haven't figured out private transport without fossil fuels yet. We're getting there with electric cars, but that's a surprisingly slow transition, isn't it, at the moment, I would say. Obviously, any climate scientist or conscientious person worth their salt would say that should have happened decades ago, but it's happening now. We're transitioning to electric, and it's still slow. I would say, so I think fossil fuels will be around, especially since, so many people's, at least in the UK, so many people's homes are heated with gas.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the infrastructure is just set up that way.
But I would be surprised if once fusion was sorted, it didn't replace coal immediately, and they started phasing out all the old nuclear power plants using fission. What I will say, though, I'm glad you raised this point, Alex, is that the one thing that seems to be lacking from all the talk around fusion is any indication that they're actually building the power plants. And part of me keeps imagining this scenario where they're in the lab, they've got their fusion reactor core built, the scientists are watching it, they start the fusion reaction, it's stable, it goes beyond 5 seconds, it goes beyond a minute, it lasts for an hour, and they're like, yeah, we've done it, high-fiving. And then suddenly it's like, crap, we haven't got a building for this. And then the reaction just keeps going and the stuff starts to melt, and you've got this whole science lab just collapses and falls apart with the intense heat of this reaction, because they suddenly thought, we should really build a reactor as power plant and then figure out the fusion thing. And I would imagine even with $4 billion of fusion, $4 billion of funding for fusion, there doesn't seem to be any any talk of, hey, we're building a power plant that will one day hold a fusion reactor. Maybe they are, but nobody's mentioned it yet.
The problem is, Robin, 3 billion of that funding went to a man called Dr. Otto Octavius to build some arms.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
this is how we control it. This is the sensible way to control it. Obviously, using some octopus arms.
Well, that's also hilarious, isn't it? Like, it's kind of like, I spent $2.5 billion building this artificially intelligent robot arms and an inhibitor chip to defend the human soul from artificial intelligence possessing them. Like, oh yeah, great, Otto. And how about the fusion? What we're actually here for? Like, I don't care about the arms, mate.
Yeah, I sorted that out in 5 minutes. It's all about the arms.
Yeah. Look,
Harry Osborn had no clue.
They invested in me, okay? They invested in my ideas. And yeah, it's all based on me. It sounds a little bit like Elon Musk, doesn't it?
Oh,
they invested in me. I can do what I like. If I want to go to Mars and colonize it, then I'll go there. Elon, why would you go to Mars? Let's sort out our own planet and maybe pay some taxes. No, I'm going to Mars. Everyone's invested in me.
Yeah.
And it's like Dr. Davis is exactly the same.
Yeah, he is.
But just with extra arms.
But in order to take myself alone to Mars, I've developed AI that will control a space rocket that will take me there in 2 days. And I have a terraforming system that will purify the atmosphere and make Mars just like a clean Earth. You're like, hey, Elon, could you apply that now on Earth? Could you do that, mate? It might save the planet.
Yeah. It will take carbon dioxide out of Mars's atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like in recent weeks, something's got to his inhibitor chip. His inhibitor chip has gone offline.
It's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
No wonder his daughter's like wanting to cut ties.
I know. We'll have to.
Octopus arms have taken over, I think.
I think at some point we are going to have to talk about Elongate in the full episode because it seems to be growing, doesn't it? Well, back to fusion. There is some other good news that I found out when researching this topic, which is that the UK government has launched the Spherical Tokamak for Energy Production program. Tokamak is a design for a fusion reactor, aka the STEP program, to build a prototype fusion power plant by 2040.
Okay. So it's not just interesting.
Yeah. So we'll have a fusion power plant, by 2040, which implies that they're expecting fusion power to be achievable not long after 2040.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Because, I mean, what would they do with it if we're not there? Would they just shut it down? I mean, like, if it's not energy efficient and we're pumping in more energy than it's producing, surely there's they just let's just put in a nuclear reactor in here.
Maybe there's provisions to repurpose it in case the technology's not there,
like the Millennium Dome.
Exactly, it'll become the new Millennium Dome.
It'll become a really. I mean, do you say they can be as small as a one room? Yeah,
I believe the current ones. Yeah,
that won't be a great gig venue, will it?
That's not
a very small room.
Well, I imagine the dynamos for generating electricity are pretty big, so it might be a big factory type thing.
That's true.
What I don't know is whether it will need the cooling tower that are so iconic for power plants. Maybe it will. I don't know if it will. Probably, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. The UK government has also just, as of today, announced their plans to change the law in this country so that fusion energy facilities are excluded from all regulations and licensing requirements surrounding nuclear power plants. Because obviously there's loads of safety procedures and standards that have to be met by nuclear fission that aren't necessary for fusion.
Well, okay.
So
I mean, that sounds like dangerous words to live by.
Tell me a little bit more about these non-issues before we go there.
So you're saying it's
sun in the palm of my hand.
That's it. Yeah, we need to find something that can withstand like the insane temperatures of fusion. It's like, that's fine. It's fine. Red tape. Come on.
Just lift all the regulations. It's going to be fine, right? It's perfectly safe. This theoretical technology.
We're a post Brexit Britain now. We're getting rid of all that red tape. It's literally, it doesn't matter, mate.
They're beginning to.
Let's build schools around it too.
And a hospital next door. We might need that. Like, what do you mean we might need that? No reason. No.
I mean, it's just good for the workers. They might, not that they'll get injured, they just might need a hospital. Oh dear.
So yeah, I mean, after all that information, how do you feel about this? Are you optimistic about fusion, or more optimistic than you were, or are you still thoroughly skeptical about it?
I think it can't come soon enough. I'm well excited for fusion power. Yeah, and the potential, and I'm excited because it does sound like the language that they're using has changed ever so slightly, which does indicate that it's not the same. Okay, push it 5 years away, push it 5 years away. There is some coherent, tight deadlines now for when things are expected to happen. So yeah, I think it's exciting news.
I think we have to be optimistic, don't we? It's too depressing not to be the way things are going. But And by the sounds of it, I don't think it will be any time in the really, really near future. I think that, if a video game is pushed back like 2 years, fusion's going to be pushed back a little bit, let's be honest. But yeah, hopefully this will be the next step towards a greener, inverted commas, planet, and that alongside, people building more renewable energy sources. Hopefully there's a bit of a shift because things are only getting worse and it's accelerating. And global warming, in particular, as sea level rising, is happening at a much faster level than we could have feared, I guess.
Yeah, it's a concern. It's a worry.
I will. Sorry.
Oh no, go on, go for it.
I was just saying, I'd like to add to that point, Martin. I think that's a really good point. That as excited as I have been this whole episode about fusion power, I have forgotten that fusion power is simply need to switch to after we've stopped all the habits that are destroying the climate and changing things for the worse. Fusion power isn't a solution to our problem. It's a way to sustain a clean lifestyle after we've stopped using fossil fuels and we've stopped plastic waste and we're recycling everything and having a more sustainable relationship with the environment in terms of farming and both animals and crops.
It's another step, isn't it? It's another step in the right direction.
It's what we need to sustain humanity for the future, but it's not going to fix our problems with climate change now. So it's the planning ahead thing. It's like planning to have that day off after a long night out. That's what a fusion reactor is.
People are always after the silver bullet, aren't they? The one thing that's just going to swoop in at the final hour and save us from climate change. The one thing, and it's not going to happen. It's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of different types of things to actually get us over the line. But I have one question for both of you then.
Okay.
If you did find yourself to be Elon Musk, for example, have the wealth of Elon Musk, but you're tasked with getting the world to embrace clean energy, what would you be investing in as an energy source? I mean, actually, if you're Elon Musk, you could invest in everything. But is there anything that you would focus on? Would you be focusing on fusion, or would you be putting that money into other projects?
Interesting question. I mean, if I were Elon Musk and I had multiple companies, the way he does, you got SpaceX, which is devoted to interplanetary travel. I would say SpaceX should be focused on fusion power. Imagine, we probably already have it if SpaceX was about fusion, right? Given the progress they've made in the last couple of decades.
I don't know. I mean, that seems a bit random though. Like, why? That feels like apples and oranges. You can't just get
they're completely different challenge. I know, but what I mean is they do one thing, which is the way Tesla make electric cars, SpaceX makes rockets. And I think if you had a company that just focused on fusion power, I would do that. At the same time, I would invest in every other kind of renewable and sustainable energy, because it depends. Like the UK could have loads more wind farms than it does offshore and onshore, because we have so much wind, because we're an island. And we also have hydropower in abundance because we're an island. We've got loads of coastline. And I think different countries need to prioritize different sources of renewable energy.
Actually, people are like, NIMBY are not in my backyard.
Yeah.
About wind turbines. I actually quite like the look of wind turbines. Yeah. I think if they were normalized as like, I think it's when they're not normal and they suddenly turn up in a new area. But if that was normalized, people would be like, it's just like a windmill in a few years' time. Yeah. Similarly, all new builds, just pop on solar panels. Pop on solar panels.
Yeah.
That is default. You have to. The regulation says that when you build a new house, it has to have solar panels. If they actually will work in the, if it's not the way, the house isn't facing the right way, then I understand it might not make sense. But just as a default, that should be like the default when you're creating new houses.
100%. That's a really good point.
If I was Elon, I'd go solar. Yeah, solar power. That would be the bulk of my investment for sure.
I mean, that's a smart choice because every single country gets sunshine to varying degrees, but they all get it. Whereas not every country has waves and winds to take advantage of.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of all of the above that need to be in play, don't they? Yeah, countries need to take advantage of what they have to hand, whether it be wind or wave power or hydro, all that.
And I'd like to make one more point about fusion energy, which occurred to me whilst we were just talking about this. I think what I'm really excited about with fusion energy is that nuclear fission has obviously existed since the Second World War, and a lot of countries, particularly America, but also in Europe and Russia, have built a lot of power plants to generate low carbon energy using nuclear fission. And if every country had invested fully in nuclear fission, arguably we wouldn't be in the situation we are now in terms of climate change, because just imagine the amount of coal that's been burned that energy could have been supplied by nuclear fission, which is much less polluting in terms of CO2. The reason that it hasn't taken off the way that would have been useful for battling climate change is because of the dangers associated with nuclear fission. And that's what I'm excited about nuclear fusion, because there's no excuse really. At least yet, so far, there's no evidence to suggest that there's any real danger at all. And it's purely clean, and it's actually more effective, I think. It generates more energy than nuclear fission does, and it's sustainable, and it's really safe. So once it's achieved, I'm excited for it, because then nobody has any excuse anymore to resist the building of nuclear power plants.
Yes. So it all just rests on this. I mean, what's become theoretical and now they're claiming is in practice, this energy balance of it creating more energy than it uses. Once we've got that, then there's no reason not to run ahead with it.
We're golden.
We're golden. We're good. The planet is saved.
Let's hope there are no unfortunate side effects that have been unforeseen.
Indeed.
Well, having wrapped that up, gentlemen, would you like to do a quiz?
I'd love to do a quiz.
A quiz. Hello and welcome to the quiz. It feels like ages since we had a quiz, but it's only been 2 episodes, but that's beside the point. In order to answer these questions 10, which I shall present to you, you need to buzz in with some kind of sonic device. Gentlemen, do you have your buzzers at hand?
Oh, yes.
Robin.
I do. All right, then. Well, let's go in alphabetical order. And Alex, what is your buzzer?
I've gone from, it's still one of my favorite videos of all time. And no, it's not Orson Welles.
So good morning, everybody. I'm hanging out with my friend John. Fox 5 Morning News starts. Look over there. And it starts right now.
If you haven't seen that video, thoroughly recommend that you go and look it up on YouTube. It starts right now. It's one of those cringe moments, but it's great. It's great. Martin, what's your buzzer?
I've gone for something new this week, and it's from an old film called Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And a child says this classic line,
"What's that got to do with my knob?"
There we go.
It's an absolutely classic film.
Classic one. It's a magic knob. That's the point. I don't know if that works for an American audience as well as it works for the British audience.
Knob's not really used. Yes, another word for the male genitalia.
Indeed. Well, let's go on to question number 1. Currently, just so everyone knows, in the track record of this season's quizzes, I think we established it was 6 quizzes to Alex and 5 to Martin. So if Martin wins this, then he neck and neck with Alex for the season finale, whenever that happens. And if Alex wins it, then he's just pulling ahead.
Well, I think there's only a few more episodes, correct? Of
if we've decided to end this on season 90, then season 90? Oh.
on episode 90.
Episode 90, yeah. For those of you wondering why I haven't spoken a lot, it's because I'm in a room with a closed door, a closed window, and curtains drawn. And it's hot. It's hot. It's just so
Everyone
hot.
can probably see us melting on camera. So
Yeah.
I'm dying.
Okay. Question number 1. It's a closest wins to ease you into it. So you don't have to think too hard. Don't worry about this. What is the atomic number of gold?
Finger. What's the atomic number of gold?
Yeah, closest wins. You can have a stab in the dark. Don't worry about this.
Gold is
I've got to ask a pretty basic question.
Okay.
Atomic number.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? Is
the little one on the bottom, right? It's like
table?
Yeah, on the periodic table, they've all got
carbon
right.
one.
Okay.
it's the number of protons and electrons that make up the atom or the molecule, of that element.
Okay, that's
Is
not
gold
what I
AU?
think.
Is that gold?
Yeah,
It is AU.
Okay. Well, if that had been the question, that'd have been good. But it's not the question.
Quickly scratches out the next question.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex buzzed in.
Right.
Yep. What's your guess for the atomic number of gold?
I'll be honest. I'll be fully honest here. I don't know what an atomic number is. I don't know.
Okay.
Is there a little number in the corner, right?
Yeah, on the periodic table, yeah.
It's if that's just like the periodic number, then I know what that is. Like hydrogen's 1, helium's like 3, oxygen's 2. But I don't know.
Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, I'll go for gold is 23.
Okay, Alex has put 23 in there.
It's a decent shout.
Golden number.
Is it towards the left or the right? And it does it go? It comes gases to the left, right, and they're the lower ones. And then, so I'm gonna go higher. I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for. I don't want to be a dick and go 24, but I'll go for a 30. Why not?
Well, technically, Martin is closer with 30, but the atomic number of gold
way
is
over
79.
Oh,
yeah, it's quite high.
I'm taking the point here, mate. I've got to win this one.
Yeah.
Like 50.
It's a fairly heavy element, actually. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's 1-0 to Martin
Do you
at
know
the
what?
start.
I've got a bad feeling that this is going to be an absolute blowout.
We've had one question. You know what I'm like.
I've just got a feeling.
I got a feeling. Okay. Question number 2. Put your film hats on.
Oh.
We're all fans of Gary Oldman here, aren't we? We love him.
Oh, yeah.
Great actor. And he won the Best Actor Oscar for playing which British Prime Minister?
And it starts right now.
That was close. That was literally simultaneous, and I'm not sure which one of you might have been a microsecond ahead. But since he's behind, I'll give Alex a go first.
It was definitely me. I think you made the right decision there. Thank you.
I'm glad you think so, Alex.
I believe he played sinking into the role elegantly. It was Winston Churchill, was it not?
It was Winston Churchill. Well done.
Yeah.
So
you
that is
very much.
1-1 to both of you. Sorry. I would not make a good football commentator, would I? Okay, fingers on buzzers for the next question. It's a 50-50 answer. True or false? True or false? William Shakespeare coined the phrase, "The world is my oyster." Oh, that was definitely Martin. He got in there first.
That's false.
It starts right now.
Everyone knows it was a.
Alex, yes? Do you have an alternative guess or the
I'm
same
going
guess?
for true.
It is true.
What?
I'm sorry, Martin. It is true.
No.
It appears in the play "The Merry Wives of Windsor," which is one of those
that's not a
plays.
real play.
I'm afraid it is, but it's
False.
Honestly, never
False. It
heard
doesn't
of
exist.
okay. It's one of the ones that no one ever reads at school, so
Not
therefore doesn't
surprised.
exist.
Doesn't
Yeah.
exist. Yep. Henry VIII wrote it.
Henry VIII wrote it
Yep.
Francis
Okay,
Bacon
along
wrote it.
just after Greensleeves. Yeah,
Mhm.
Francis Drake, surely. Francis Drake wrote it. So that's 2-1 to Alex. Going on to question number 4. As of today, at the time of recording, what is Tom Cruise's highest grossing movie?
What's that got to do with my knob?
Is that the question?
Yes.
It's the new Top Gun film.
It is the new Top Gun film.
Is it? Wow.
It's Top Gun Maverick, yeah. In the US and Canada and worldwide.
Wow.
Mental. It's crazy to think that, isn't it? Like a remake of, well, not remake, a new Top Gun of so many years after. Yeah.
A legacy sequel, as I like to call them.
Of all of his
That's his
films.
top grossing film. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show, if you play the long game and make your sequel to that generation defining movie about 40 years later, you will have a mega hit. It's even adjusted for inflation. It is still his highest grossing film. The original Top Gun grossed just over 420-ish million, I think, when adjusted for inflation in 1986. And the newest Top Gun has grossed 486 million. And that's just in America. Worldwide, it's 900 million. It's going to break $1 billion. It's going to be Tom Cruise's first $1 billion movie, which is nuts.
Those people that say strike while the iron is hot, they're noted by their absence.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let the fine wine age. Okay, question number 5, and it's 2-2. Closest wins again. Oh, shoot.
How many dollars Tom Cruise's film?
This is actually, I should have read ahead. I wrote this 2 weeks ago. Okay. How much has Top Gun Maverick grossed worldwide? Ha! Memory test, fellas.
No.
Starts right now.
I heard starts right now.
Oh, okay.
What?
I'm so sorry, Robin. I glossed over. You said it was going to be his first $1 billion. I'm going to say $1 billion.
Okay.
It's $900 million.
Martin is closer. It's currently on $904 million worldwide.
Well, there you go. That's that just shows that reading, listening and comprehension is an important part of these quizzes as well.
I'm glad I've established that.
Do you know
also,
what? If the room in here was 20 degrees colder, I would be fine. Right
I know. That wouldn't have happened if the room were 20 degrees colder.
It's too hot.
My brain has ceased to function.
It's too hot.
The circuits are
hungry.
melting. Okay, question number 6. It's 3-2 to Martin, but there's plenty of time for Alex to get it back. So, clouder is the collective noun for a group of what? Clouder. Like chowder, but with an L.
Yeah.
Louder.
Clouder of...
Starts right now.
Yes, Alex.
Well, you mentioned chowder, so I'm going to go a clouder of clams.
Is not the right answer.
Oh.
What's that got to do with my knob?
I love that buzzer, Martin.
So good. Yes, Martin, what's your guess?
I'm thinking we were speaking about bats recently. I'm going to go bats.
Not bats. Nice guess, though.
Clouder of...
I can give you a clue, but the first clue that comes to mind is definitely a finger on buzzer's clue.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Right.
You're both sure you're happy with your positioning of your dot on the timeline? Yep. Okay. You wouldn't want to let this
What's that
out of the bag.
got to do with my knob?
I heard Martin. I heard Martin.
He
You wouldn't want
buzzed
to-
while you just started
Yeah,
the
he buzzed.
sentence.
You could have stopped. You could have stopped. You could have stopped the question.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let out the bag. So it's cats.
It is cats. It's a cloud of cats. It's funny
didn't
that
know
you mentioned bats because obviously the most recent the Batman film, which came out just a couple of months ago, has Batman and Catwoman in. And I thought, funny that you should think of that.
Yeah.
Can we just set in stone that when someone buzzes, the question
You cannot
stops?
speak about buzzing, Alex. You cannot.
Yeah, sure, we could establish that rule.
Martin
sure.
buzzed
In
as soon
episode
as you
87.
started talking.
No. He said you
No,
cannot
he-
let, and I went, oh, I know that. So let the cats out of the
I
bag.
paused and then he buzzed in. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Alright.
yeah.
yeah, I think it was all
All
right.
right, all
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so it's currently, is it 4-2 to Martin? Is that
It is
correct?
40
I believe it is 4-2 to
Big
Martin.
time.
Okay. Well, Alex, here's your chance. Here's your chance to get it back. William Webb Ellis is credited with inventing which sport? I heard
Do it
Martin.
again. That would be rugby union.
It is rugby union, specifically rugby
You
union. Well
absolute
done.
scumbag.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you put a rugby union question in the quiz.
Well, I think I've mentioned it before, actually, Alex. You know, the name of the World Cup is the William Webb Ellis Cup.
That's true. Yeah.
Why don't
That's
you
true.
include
I've
questions
spoken-
on any of
I've
my
spoken to-
interests?
I've spoken to you about this literally dozens of times, Alex. I said, when the question about William Webb Ellis comes up, you'll know what to do.
Listening and comprehension. Listening
Yeah.
and
You,
comprehension.
you folded.
I need to stop
folded
phasing
like
out when you talk about things.
you folded like a house of cards made of Swiss cheese.
To be fair, I will confess, I may have snuck that question in at question 7 because I may have anticipated that Martin would be behind in the quiz at this point. Because oftentimes,
why is that?
Well, I've had at least 3, if not 4, fingers on buzzers questions, and Alex is the king of buzzing in first.
It's true.
So,
It's true.
yeah.
Martin,
But your
Martin's
magic
buzzer is working for him this week. This is
the magic knob is really working out
That's
for
a
you.
good one. Yeah.
Mm.
Dang. Okay.
Okay.
Fine.
So you're both ready for the next question? Question number 8. It's 5-2.
So I can still bring it back. But
Alex can bring it back. If you get the next 3 questions right, we're down to the tiebreaker. Okay.
Very true.
Get ready for your anatomy.
Oh, goodness.
The axilla is the scientific name for which part of the body?
Axilla.
The axilla.
Starts right now.
Yes, Alex.
The axilla. I'm going to go ears.
No, it's not the ears.
The axilla. I think it's going to be a bone. Yeah.
That got to do my knob.
Axilla knob. Yeah. No. Axilla. I'm going to go for. It's going to be the face. I think. I'm going to go for the jaw.
It's not the jaw. I'll give you both a clue.
Oh.
There isn't a bone.
Sorry.
The axilla is not a bone.
Starts right now.
Yes, Alex.
Maybe it's my filthy mind working for me, but the way that you said there's not a bone makes me think that this is the penis.
It's not the penis, but as I said it, I thought, damn, I wish this were the penis.
It's not a bone. Okay. It's not a bone. It is the armpit.
It is the armpit. But that makes Martin the winner of the quiz. Do you want to do the next 2 questions? Or
of course I do. We've never done it.
Okay.
I'm not throwing in the towel. It's fine.
All right. Good. I knew you wouldn't. I knew I could depend on you.
You don't have to stop the match
imagine that.
early just because
People would
he's
be
winning
furious.
so much.
Imagine that. People would be furious at home.
All right. Question number 9.
No, I need to regain some dignity.
Chronomentrophobia
Oh, I'm out.
is the fear of what?
Right now.
Chronomentrophobia. Yes, Alex.
I'm going to say time passing. And I'm saying that. Sorry, no, go for it.
So that's not correct, but you're in the right area.
Oh, that's a clue.
That is a clue, actually. I realised that. That's a clue.
You're allowed to buzz in again, Alex, if you want to.
What's that got to do my knob?
The future.
No. Chronomentrophobia.
Oh, okay.
What's that got to do my knob?
All right, Martin, yeah?
Getting old.
No. Alex, I think you buzzed in too.
Yeah, that was going to be my guess. Chronomentrophobia. I'm going to go just clocks. Just clocks in general.
And you'd be correct.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Fear of clocks. Yeah.
Chronomentrophobia. It's quite a long-winded way of saying that, isn't it? Yeah.
Comes from chronos, the Greek word for time. No?
Yes.
Yes.
No bonus points there, Alex, but thanks for trying.
Please.
But, it's funny because that's presumably a phobia that didn't exist until clocks were invented.
Yeah. True.
Okay. Question number 10. Final question. And it's 7-3 to Martin.
It's 6-3, Robin. Okay. Calm down.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, that would add up, wouldn't it? Yeah. It's 6-3. Sorry. 6-3. Gosh, man, it's just too hot, mate. Too hot. Okay. In this weather, this might actually be useful to know. What is the second largest lake in the world by volume?
Right now.
What's that got to do my knob?
Yes, Martin.
I think Alex buzzed in first there.
Okay, yeah.
Lake Superior.
Now, a lot of Americans would claim this, but it's not. I will take.
Second largest.
Yeah, I'm asking him a guess, and then I'll give you.
So it's not in America then.
Because your fact of the week last week was about lakes, Robin. But
It
I
was.
think you mentioned the number 1, but I'm not.
I
can't
did.
remember.
It was in Siberia, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I got that far.
I did, yeah.
Oh goodness, it's not in America. Damn. It's going to be one of the Great Canadian Lakes, maybe. What about Great Winnipeg?
No, but nice guess. I will accept a country rather than the name of the lake itself. And if you want to guess a continent, I will happily guide you in that direction.
It's really obscure then.
Yes, Alex.
Oh, Canada.
It ain't Canada, surprisingly.
No.
Oh, I just ruled that out.
Yeah.
Oh, China.
No, but I mean, it's such a big place that yes, so it's a reasonable guess.
It's a big place.
Yeah.
Mm.
Is it in Africa?
It is in Africa.
Bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum,
Yeah,
bum.
and I'll accept a country. Yeah.
What's that got to do with my knob?
Yes, Martin.
Is it in the Central Democratic Republic of Congo?
Yes.
Genuinely.
Actually.
This is, yeah. Lake
That's mental.
Oh my
Lake
God, what a
Tanganyika. Yeah.
shout.
Yeah, good guess. Yeah, Lake Tanganyika. It's actually partly it's actually in 4 different countries. It's their borders meet at this massive lake. Congo, Tanzania, Burundi, and Zambia.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so you could have guessed any of those 4, sorry.
Still, though, that's
And,
quite a
yeah.
selection. That, yeah, that's
Yeah, not an easy one.
Good guess.
And I'm glad I
Cool.
picked that for the question number 10. Bloody hell, what was I thinking when I wrote this quiz? That's not great.
If that was the decider, what the fuck?
I was, past Robin 2 weeks ago was not thinking straight. Would you like the bonus question? Or have you all been questioned out? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And the final score is 7-3 to Martin. Well done, Martin.
All right, you need to rub it in. Yeah.
But bonus question is closest wins.
Okay.
Okay.
Think history. In what year did India gain independence from Great Britain? In what year?
Okay.
Closest wins.
Okay.
Wow, this is embarrassing.
So,
This is embarrassing.
was it?
I think I may let Martin guess first here.
It's very kind of you,
Was
Alex.
it
It's very kind of you.
Very kindly let Martin.
so the Indian forces were still fighting with the British forces in 1953. Is that too late?
Well, I'll tell you when Alex has had a guess.
My knob.
It starts right now.
Yes, Alex?
I was thinking it was very soon after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go. So you're 1953. I'm going to say 1947.
It's 1947.
No way.
Yeah,
Nice
spot
one.
on, Alex.
Good guess.
Spot on. Good guess. Well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
Well done indeed. That gives you the moral victory of being spot on with your answer. But of course, the actual victory goes to Martin, which means it's 6-all in the overall quiz thing.
Yes,
which means we've
that's
had
true.
a total of 15 quizzes, I believe, this season, which would give us a total of 18 quizzes by the end of the season.
Nice. Bloody good
In
number.
theory, if we have a quiz in every episode for the next 3 episodes, we don't actually know if we will, but we'll try.
We will try.
Yeah. So thank you, fellas, for joining me for that really interesting topic. And thank you so much for joining me for the quiz. I'm sorry about the questions and my delivery of the questions and my spoiling of the questions.
I enjoyed the quiz.
But,
I like the
great,
spoiling.
Robin.
It helped.
Yeah,
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I didn't enjoy one of the questions aimed solely to deliver Martin an extra point.
Sorry.
But other than that, it was a fantastic quiz.
And thanks for all of you at home for listening to us. Thank you deeply to our Patreon supporters and YouTube members who help keep the channel going. You're wonderfully generous people. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.